The cubs had positioned themselves in a perfect defensive formation around Alara's unconscious form. 3 of them, each the size of a full-grown earth wolf with midnight black fur that rippled like liquid shadow and eyes that glowed a warning crimson, blocked the entrance to her sleeping quarters. 2 more flanked her bedside, their razor-sharp claws extended, their low growls reverberating through the metal walls of the research station. Dr. Kale stood in the corridor, medical kit in hand, staring at the impossible scene before him. "She's dying," he said to the nearest cub, knowing how absurd it was to reason with an apex predator. "I need to treat her now." The cub's growl deepened. Its lips curled back, revealing teeth designed to tear through reinforced armor plating. Kyle had been the station's chief medical officer for 3 years. He'd treated radiation burns, alien parasites, and vacuum exposure. He'd never, not once, needed to ask permission from animals to treat a patient. But these weren't just animals. They were Vorkai cubs, and by all accounts, they should have killed Ilara months ago. It had started 6 months earlier, when the xenobiology team discovered a Vorkai den in the eastern caverns of Epsilon 7. The adults were long dead, killed in territorial disputes. The team theorized, leaving behind 5 mewling cubs that wouldn't survive another week without intervention. The entire station had voted to let nature take its course. The Vorkai were Class A predators, responsible for 17 documented attacks on colonial outposts across the sector. Saving them was insane. Everyone voted to abandon them, everyone except Ilara. She'd gone to the den alone against direct orders, carrying nutrition packs and thermal blankets. Kale remembered arguing with her in the mess hall the night before. "They're infants," she'd said quietly, stirring her coffee with deliberate slowness. "Orphaned, scared. They're monsters," Kale had countered. "In 6 months, they'll be large enough to kill you without thinking twice." She'd smiled at that infuriating, gentle smile that made her seem naive to those who didn't know better. "Then I guess I have 6 months to teach them not to." And somehow, impossibly, she had. The cubs had imprinted on her completely. They followed her everywhere, learned to fetch tools when she worked, even developed a rudimentary understanding of commands. The station's attitude shifted from hostility to bemused tolerance. Betting pools formed over when the cubs would inevitably turn on her. The pools remained uncollected. Ilara had a gift. Everyone agreed on that much. She moved through the world with a patience that bordered on supernatural. She never raised her voice, never showed fear, never struck them even when they played too rough and drew blood. She simply corrected them, guided them, loved them with the stubborn determination that only humans seemed capable of. And now she was unconscious, burning with fever from a Vorkai pathogen that her immune system had never encountered, and the cubs she'd raised refused to let anyone near her. Cal tried a different approach. He knelt slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. The lead cub, the one Ilara called Shadow, watched him with intelligent eyes. "I know you understand more than we think," Kyle said softly. "She taught you to trust, didn't she? She taught you that not everything that approaches means harm." Shadow's ears twitched, but the growling didn't stop. "She's sick. Without help, she'll die. You know what death is. You lost your mother, your pack." Kale set his medical kit on the floor and slid it forward slowly. "I'm trying to prevent that. I'm trying to save her." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Shadow turned his head, looking back at Alara's still form. The cub made a sound Kale had never heard before, something between a whimper and a question. The other cubs responded in kind, their formation loosening slightly. Shadow looked back at Kale, and the doctor could have sworn he saw something like understanding in those crimson eyes. The cub stepped aside. Kale released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He moved forward slowly, carefully, every nerve in his body screaming that he was walking into a death trap. The cubs tracked his every movement, but they didn't attack. He reached Alara's side and immediately began his assessment. Elevated temperature, labored breathing, signs of systemic infection. He administered broad-spectrum antibiotics and antivirals, started an IV, applied cooling patches to bring her fever down. All the while, Shadow sat beside him watching. 3 hours later, Ilara's fever broke. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then settling on the massive predator cub resting its head on her bedside. "Hey, baby," she whispered, her voice hoarse. Her hand moved weakly to scratch behind Shadow's ear. The cub rumbled, Not a growl this time, but something closer to a purr. Then she noticed Kale slumped in a chair beside her bed, exhausted but alert. "They let you in?" she asked, surprise evident even through her weakness. Kyle nodded slowly. "Eventually, after I convinced them I wasn't a threat to you." He paused, studying the cubs that had now relaxed their guard, some even curling up to sleep near Alara's bed. "You taught them more than tricks, Alara. You taught them trust, loyalty, compassion." "I just treated them like people," she said simply. "That's what makes you human," Kale replied. "You see people where others see monsters. You extend kindness where others extend fear." He stood, gathering his equipment. "The galaxy calls that naivety. I'm starting to think it's actually evolution." As he left, he glanced back one final time. Alara had fallen back asleep, surrounded by 5 apex predators who would kill anything that threatened her. Cubs that should have been left to die, raised by a woman who refused to accept that some things couldn't be saved. In that moment, Kale understood what the xenobiologists were always saying about humans. They didn't conquer the galaxy through superior firepower or advanced technology. They conquered it by making friends with the monsters everyone else feared. And somehow, against all logic and probability, the monsters loved them back.